Hi, everybody. This is Non-Duality Talk. I'm Jerry Katz. My guest alongside me is Nurit Oren. Hey, Nurit, how's it going?
Good.
We're
It's
having fun
actually
already. We haven't even started. We're having some fun. Nurit lives in beautiful Budapest, Hungary, with her soon-to-be husband.
actually he's already my husband.
Well, update your website. Come on.
We just got married last night. Give us a moment.
You got married last night. Are you
Yeah,
serious?
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be married and all? That's awesome.
It feels great.
That's great. Well, that's part of your story is how you met
Yeah.
Gabor Harsanyi. Just looking at
Hmm.
him there, who's a teacher. He lectures all around Hungary, and he's your spiritual guide.
Yes.
Well, and earlier I saw him in the background. So I think we'll probably do a separate interview with
Okay.
today we'll talk to you. Yeah,
Okay.
that's cool. I feel like I should, give you a blender or a toaster or something. I don't know.
It's okay. It's not a big deal.
What do people give for birth? It's not a big deal.
No, we just signed the papers, and we've been married before in every way that counts. We've been together for 5 years, and
5 years.
this is more like a formality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice. Okay, so we're celebrating at a wedding. We've got all kinds of stuff happening here. A lot of excitement. We need a cake or something. So this is non-duality talk. I'm going to talking to
It's actually Nurit.
Nurit
Nurit, yes.
Nurit Oren
Yes.
from Israel,
Hmm.
right?
Originally.
Living in Hungary, and you have some experiences serving in the army there.
Hmm.
Maybe you'll get into that. And I met you through Israel Sushman, who I interviewed a few weeks ago.
Right.
You kind of traveled with him. He introduced you to some important milestones in your spiritual journey. And in your book, I assume you'd kind of tell your story in some detail.
Yes.
Now, something that strikes me first off, and you mentioned this first off in interviews that I've watched, is that ever since you were very young, you've had this hunger, this yearning for
Yes.
freedom.
Yes.
That's- So I just want to say welcome to Non-Duality Talk, and let's
Thank you.
start there. I think that's where you start. Maybe that's where you end. I don't know.
Yep. Yes. Yes. So I've always had a thirst for freedom. That was the tricky part about being in the army, because there's not a whole lot of freedom in the army. And that's when my father gave me the book Siddhartha. And I started reading about the yogis in India, and I felt very much attracted to that. It was kind of a contrast, because here I was in the Gaza Strip in the army, the worst place you could be at that time. Very little chances of going home on the weekends. So I was cooped up like in a prison, and at the same time couldn't put the book Siddhartha down, which is all about freedom and finding yourself. So it was a help, but also ignited my thirst for freedom even more.
Something in that book, I remember reading it too when I was like 20, and I didn't really understand it.
No, I didn't either.
But what is it then? What is it then that you think was? I'm just trying to put myself in that time, and then laying in my bed in the dormitory room reading it because someone told me I should read, or I heard about that you should read it.
Yeah.
Just trying to put myself in that place, and I know I liked it. I felt something in it,
Yeah.
even though I didn't understand it, and even today I might not understand it. Probably wouldn't understand it fully, but
Well, there's a part of us.
communicated in something like that you don't understand really what's going on.
Mhm.
Some people will go to see a non-duality teacher and they may say, I didn't really understand what he was saying, but I knew I belonged there, experiencing truth. People
Mhm.
often mention that in the course of going through their spiritual milestones.
I felt that all my life. I felt that I was looking for something. There is a part of us that consistently wants to find that inner being that we really are, which is our birthright. And so we don't know where to look. There's no one that guides us, really. Our parents teach us to look outside. They teach us who they think we are. They're not present with us. And then our teachers, the same, they teach us, they give us external knowledge. They teach us that you have to be smart and know a lot, and if you don't, you get punished. If you do, you get rewarded. So we're trained in our life to look outside. The more diplomas we have, the better. The more education we have, the better. The smarter we are, the better. The more wit we have, the better. The more we can dazzle other people, the better. Some people have that longing to find that the inner spark, and to find to go back home, if you will, to well, it's really everyone's birthright, and but we're taught from day one. Our parents, nobody taught them how to be present, so they're not present with us. They tell us through their framework and through their reference points and their mentality and concepts that they've acquired. Through that, they tell us who we are. We learn that. Then we learn in school that the more knowledge we have, the better. We get punished if we don't know something. We get rewarded if we do know. And we go on in life, we grow up thinking that all knowledge is outside, and the more the better. The more the more diplomas we have, the more degrees we have, the more we can dazzle other people, the better. Unfortunately, that takes us more outer and outer and outer into the world of the mind. And that's the world of duality. The mind is dual. The mind is bipolar. It's good or bad, right or wrong, and that's the realm, and nothing wrong with it, but that's what it is. And some of us have, because it's so innate and it's so natural and it's our birthright to know who we really are, there's a feeling inside sometimes where we want to know our true being. Sometimes it ignites through an accident or through a shock. For others, it might happen through art. And there's a lot of artists that have moments. My father was an artist. He had moments of presence. One of my teachers was an artist. He had moments. But the moments aren't enough. Someone has to tell us, whether it's a shock or through art, someone's got to guide us and tell us what those moments mean, and that those moments need to be deepened and to become our platform, our new platform, not just a momentary glimpse that we long to get back to. The problem is that the mind wants to take over. The mind wants to be in charge. It wants the control. So it keeps coming in and it keeps invalidating those experiences. And that's where the work of someone like Gabor is very helpful, because since I've been with him, he's been able to work with me very closely and help me see through those mental, habitual thoughts that come up. We're all addicted to thinking. It's very hard to stop, as I'm sure you know. That's what we hear all the time. I can't stop thinking. I can't stop thinking. Of course, we've been thinking from day one. We've been taught to think. And there's nothing wrong with thinking, but we don't know, if we don't know how to stop thinking, then we don't know how to think. Just like you said before, that you take a moment of silence first. If you remember, you started off that way. If you really take a moment of silence and feel your inner being inside, then the thinking that follows is very different.
You mentioned that a person can experience this presence, whether it's in art, in nature, perhaps spontaneously for no particular reason. Mm-hmm. And unless they are guided to pursue it, it can just pass, and they can return to living at the hand of habitual thoughts. But what is it that connects a person that connects the experience of presence, the fleeting experience of presence, to the guru? Because not everyone does that.
What is it that connects it to the guru?
Why does someone say, hey, this was a pretty cool experience, I got to pursue it, I got to find out what that's about?
Well, unfortunately, there are all kinds of gurus today. People have, like, I can talk from my experience, I had a desire for it, but unfortunately, I was caught up in the external hoopla of spirituality. There's a lot of misconceptions about spirituality today, and people think that the mind doesn't want to give up. It's excitement. The mind likes things that are exciting and dazzling, and it wants a sensational experience. It wants a sensorial experience. So when it goes, for example, my first guru was very powerful man. Everybody talks about all the Shakti that he had, and he awakened the Kundalini, and you see lights, and you hear divine music, and you go into ecstasy and bliss, and that for the mind, that's fantastic.
Now, was that guru me by any chance?
That what?
Was that guru me by any chance?
You?
Not me, someone else. Who?
This was Muktananda was my first guru.
Muktananda, right? I can't quite have the. Okay.
Yeah, the same guru that Israel talked about. He introduced me to him. Yes, and that was very dazzling. And they say some wonderful things like God dwells within you as you, but they also tell you that you have to completely surrender to the guru who is outside of you, and completely obey the guru and please the guru for many, many years. And if the guru finds you worthy, then he will give it to you. So once again, the mind has set you up to be totally mesmerized by a path that ensures that you're looking outside and that you're finding pseudo answers outside. They're satisfying for a while, but then they're not after a while. There's many people who, after having that experience, even though they say it was the best time of their life, they go and they find other things. They go to religion, they go to drugs, they go to anything to rekindle some kind of feeling that they had. But the feeling that they had was not true peace. It was a mental, psychic experience. And a lot of people get trapped. My ex-husband got trapped in that. He became a guru because he had experiences that were similar to the ones that Muktananda writes about in his book. So he thought that he was a guru, and he deluded a lot of people around him. But that's not true peace. The mind doesn't want true peace, but there's something inside us that does. And if we can be quiet enough to pay attention to that, and if we're fortunate enough to have a teacher who is awake, as opposed to somebody who's just charismatic, then we can experience that peace. It's not even an experience, but we can have a taste of it that we can go deeper and deeper into and allow it to take over instead of the mind consistently taking over. And then we wonder, where is that experience? Why is it gone? Why does it come and go?
Yeah, and again, even finding a false guru. I mean, not everyone, again, like I said earlier, even with this experience of presence, some people don't pursue it. So not everyone kind of values the experience enough to pursue it. Even, going through the journey through the false gurus and, the unawakened, charismatic people such as myself, the interview. But technically we're okay. No, okay. I'm just saying that not everyone values that experience. And and I find that interesting. And like, what is that? I mean, so someone has an experience of grace, an experience of presence, grace, and everything. I mean, is that grace? Why do some people value it and some people let it go? Why do some people value it and go on a journey through the false gurus and the real gurus, and others don't? Well, I mean, what do you think? What do you have to say about the grace of valuing the experience?
What I found in my search is a lot of people who find a guru, whether it's false or not, are not really pursuing it for the right reasons. I don't mean to say the word right doesn't sound right because it's not a right or wrong, but people don't always go find a guru for the sake of going home, going inside, or finding God. Not everybody has that thirst for God, and I was very shocked to learn that, because I thought when I was in India, I thought that everybody had that. Until one day I spoke to a friend of mine who was becoming a monk, and I thought, oh my God, what a great experience. I was so, I had so much respect for her. I thought, what a great thing to take an oath of monkhood and That's what I wanted to do, because I thought if you renounce everything and become a monk, you get closer to God. That's what I believed at the time. And when I asked her, I said, well, what does it feel like? What is that experience like? She said, well, it's the next step in my spiritual career. And I was horrified. I thought, career? You know, and in other paths, I met the same thing. A lot of people just, it's a thing to do. It's a fad. It's instead of going to religion, people don't want religion because their parents have been in religion, and they've seen what religion has done, so they want something else. So the mind invents it attracts other stimuli that we can call it spiritual, and we feel really good about it. But there's no intention of going home. There's no intention of finality, of being at one. And being at peace. There's a desire for spiritual entertainment. There's a desire for intellectual pursuit and calling it spiritual.
I wonder, I mean, people, I mean, nothing wrong with entertainment. We need to be entertained. I wonder if it's better to, for someone to realize that they're pursuing spiritual entertainment and to kind of set that aside and to pursue entertainment somewhere else. Or to pursue spiritual entertainment, but also to see that there's another, another way to pursue the true self.
Yes.
So yeah, pursue the entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So you can both pursue the entertainment, go to this guru and that one, and follow a real guru at the same time.
Yes, I don't know because I haven't done it. I haven't been with a true guru and a false guru at the same time. But I can tell you that from my experience, a lot of people think that there's nothing wrong with going to false gurus for a while because it ignites something within you and it prepares you for the true guru. That is not true at all. From my experience, it is not true. It's a false concept. What I found is that it's actually detrimental because a lot of the false gurus, unfortunately, while you're being entertained, the mind is learning spiritual concepts, and it uses it against you when you are ready to go inside. When you're finally ready and you do find the true teacher who can demonstrate to you how to go inside, show you the how-to, not just talk about it. When there's somebody who is awake, not just talks about being awake, and can take you inside, if you've had so many other teachers like I've had, there's a lot of spiritual concepts that have become blocks that block you from having that experience because the mind keeps pulling in files from its reference points from the past. Oh, but I learned that from this teacher. Oh, but that sounds like that. And it starts comparing. And as long as the mind compares it and analyzes, it's not quiet. And if the mind isn't quiet, there is no way we're going inside. When the mind is busy, we're not home. We're in the realm of the mind.
I really appreciate that. I'm talking to Nurit Oren in Budapest, Hungary. So if I'm probably talking about something crazy, but if you're going to pursue a true guru, and there were some of the real ones I've talked to just lately, just talking to you, I know Gabor, I interviewed Leonard Jacobson recently, who's a teacher. Comes from
he's great.
And I think, and C, who used to be a teacher and she lives in Hana, Maui, and she's starting to teach again as one of these people that takes very, very few students. Mm-hmm. Those are just people and there's many others. Those are just people I've talked to in the last couple of days, or watched their videos and stuff. So if those are the true gurus, who just kind of, hit right home without messing around too much, you could pursue at the same time a false guru if it's like going to a movie where you don't believe the guy, but you suspend disbelief in order to enjoy his story and to see what's going on in the world with gurus and see how people are being,
yes,
see what's happening.
Right. As long as you're awake enough and grounded in your own being, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you don't use it as an escape from going inside. A lot of the false gurus are like deflectors. They,
So tell me who
you know.
some false gurus are, or you don't
Well,
mention names, but you mentioned some.
well, the ones that I've been with, I found that they weren't awake and themselves, and they've had glimpses, they've had experiences, they've had psychic experiences, they had Kundalini awakenings. That's not being awake. And the only way I know that is because I was awakened by an awake teacher. And you can't know it unless you are awake yourself. You don't know it. They're all the experiences around them are wonderful to the mind. If it's an intellectual teaching, it's like having intellectual orgasms. It's fantastic. If it's on a psychic level, you go through these bliss experiences. But unless you have that real awakening from someone who is there, who lives that way, then you don't really know what the other experiences are. But once you have that awakening, then you look back and you say, oh, so that's what it was.
What does it mean to live that way? You said someone who lives that way. What does it mean to live that way?
To live, to have presence, live you. In other words, you use the mind, but the mind doesn't use you. You're able to, this is one thing that Gabor teaches. For example, right now I'm speaking with you, but I'm present in my body. I'm inside. There's a part of me that's inside, and I'm talking from that place. If I talk to you from my mind, it would be very different.
So that's interesting, to have presence live you.
Yes.
Instead of perhaps the alternative would be for someone who's searching is to make that effort to live from presence.
Right.
Which is fine too. I mean, if you're pursuing this, then maybe you have to do that.
Yes.
Until the turnaround just comes.
Well, once you have that experience, then the one thing that's important to know that it's inside and it's no longer needed to search outside. And in fact, it's detrimental to continue to search outside once you know that it's not outside of you, because that just pulls the mind right out of it. And then the practice becomes during the day, no matter what you're doing, whether you're sitting quietly or walking or washing the dishes or whatever you're doing, to allow yourself to feel the inner presence and to do what you're doing from that place. It's not easy at the beginning. The mind tries to take over continuously. It's much easier to just sit and not do anything and attempt it, which they call meditation. But again, now we're getting into a timed experience, which is again another illusion, but we'll leave that for another day. But with the more you practice to live that way, by being present, like being present when I talk to you, being present when I'm sitting, being present when I'm writing, being present when I'm doing anything, then it becomes more natural. We're just not in the habit of doing that. We're in the habit of having our mind guide us and control us. And now we're asking the mind to step down and allow our true being to sit on the throne, and I'll ask the mind to be a servant. The mind doesn't want to do that. So it's like any corporation. If you ask the CEO to go back to the mailroom, they're not going to be happy.
I guess. Yeah, so you're like a teacher yourself. I mean, you speak in that way, and you speak of Gabor being your teacher, but
yeah, I haven't mastered it like he has. I'm practicing. I still go through my stuff. I've had to undo a lot from the 40 years that I've studied. Um, I've gotten used to having realizations and analyzing them and stuff like that. So I have to remind myself that it's not about content. It's not about what I know or what I don't know. It's an inner feeling. And and Gabor helps me a lot with that. But he's had a chance. He'll tell you, but he practiced for many years, and he's had many experiences that led him to his own accomplishment in this area. So he's a lot more. He's capable of teaching it. I can talk about it, and I can be present when I talk to people. But he has the ability to awaken it in someone. You can feel it when you talk to him, and he has the ability to protect you from your.
Talking about Gabor, he has the ability to awaken it in someone and the ability to protect you from your own mind. That was the last thing, and that's a powerful, really powerful statement. Never heard it expressed quite that way. The ability to protect you from your own mind. So maybe,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, like I said, the mind doesn't want to step down from its throne. For until somebody comes along like Gabor and awakens that us to our own being, the mind's been in charge. It's been in control. It guides us through everything. And it does that through comparisons and analysis and pulling things from our past references and using the fears that we've accumulated, the fears, the hearsay, the spiritual hearsay and the political hearsay and what the parents taught us and what our teachers taught us, and it builds a life around that. And so when we awaken and the inner being starts to become alive in us, the mind doesn't like it. It feels threatened. Just being in the present moment is enough for the mind to get all screwed up. It doesn't like being in the moment. It has to be in the past or in the future. So it says, hey, what about me? You know, I've been running the show all along, and the truth is that it doesn't do a good job at running the show at all because it has a very limited view, whereas our being has a much better view. Our being is what connects us to consciousness, to the universal intelligence. So when somebody has that experience of being awakened by someone like Gabor, their mind kicks in and starts comparing. Oh, but my teacher said this and another teacher said that and all that kind of stuff. What about devotion? What about the Kundalini? What about this and what about that? So he is able to show a person that those thoughts that come in, those invalidations that come in, are nothing but the resistance of the mind. And when you can start seeing that and overcoming that, then you actually go deeper and deeper into your own being. And he that's what he does. He holds you there long enough and helps you through that long enough through different sessions that you have with him. And then you're able to be established in being, and being takes over, and your life begins to be on another platform. Then you can function, like you can talk to people and still be present. You can wash the dishes, work in the garden, go to work, do whatever you want to do, but still be present. And at that point, even if you're talking to a false teacher, you're not dazzled by it. You recognize that it's a mind teaching, that it's an intellectual teaching, because you've already experienced the inner silence.
It'll be fun to talk to Gabor, and it's fun talking to you. And you have a book coming out.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking to Nurit Oren in Budapest, Hungary. Tell us about your book.
Well, my book is called The Blind Leading the Blonde on the Road to Freedom. And it tells a little bit about my childhood and growing up, where I talk about different times where the longing for freedom was dominant in my life. And then it goes into to my first deception when I went to India and studied with an Indian guru. It talks about what I learned as a result of that. Then it talks about my next phase, the second misconception that I had when I got into a very intellectual teaching. And so from a sloppy devotee, I became this intellectual seeker, where I was accumulating knowledge, analyzing words, memorizing words, but it was all words. And then finally, how I met Gabor and how I first resisted him. My mind did not want to, was very challenged by him, actually. At one point, we met, and he pointed out that where I was at, my spirituality was mind-based, whereas his was not. And he said it in a very nice way, not as a negative thing at all. But my mind was very challenged by that, so I found all kinds of faults with him. And it wasn't until I realized that it was my mind that was keeping me away from him, because there was a part of me that did recognize that he was special, that he was different. For one thing, I've never met anyone who listens so perfectly, so well to other people. He's complete. When you talk to him, he's completely present with you, like nobody else is, and he's just there. He's not imposing his thoughts on you, or his opinions on you, or his knowledge on you, or anything. He's just there, like an empty vessel, and you can just walk into that space of peace. And I didn't know that that's what it was, and he's not doing it on purpose. He's just there. He just practiced it for so long that he lives in that space. So I recognized, I didn't know why he was so wonderful to talk to. I never met anyone like that. And he never tried to impress me. And I never met anybody who didn't try to impress me. I was, 40 years in a teaching, and I was trying to impress him. And by the time I met him, I had such a huge spiritual ego. And which is another danger of the false teachings, because if you're not going inside and you're continuously going on the outside, you're also building your accolades, your spiritual accolades. Now I'm almost a monk, or I've done this course and I've done that course. I met this teacher. So few people have had the privilege of meeting that teacher, and I wrote a book and I memorized the words, and it goes on and on and on. So by the time I met him, my head was this big. And he never judged me for it. He accepted me the way I was, and there was no big deal. So I realized at one point that I'm not getting something. I'm blocking my own entrance here by judging him, by analyzing, by comparing, which the mind loves to do. And finally, one day, I felt I had to see him. I hadn't seen him for 2.5 years, except for occasionally we bumped into each other. And I realized that if there's going to be a meaningful meeting, I have to stop my mind. And before the meeting, I stopped the car, and then I stopped my mind. And I made a commitment to myself that when I'm with him, there'd be no thoughts, there'd be no judgments, there'd be no comparisons, there'd be no analysis. And that's when I recognized that there's someone very special. I don't know there's no words for it. And that's when I was open enough and willing enough to be simple enough to experience the awakening that he has to offer. If somebody comes to him full of complexity and does not want to let go of the complexity, it's a lot harder. You might get a glimpse, but the mind kicks in very fast. We've seen it happen time and again. There's got to be some kind of willingness to suspend the addiction to thinking, the addiction to comparing, to bringing in files from the past, and to just be willing to listen and to be without having to understand it.
Yeah, and even with this suspending of the mental activity, it's not the eradication of mental activity. There's still the pressure of the mind is still there, and
yes,
and even though you see that pressure decreasing and kind of deflating, like a balloon, it's It's not easy. And what
No.
experiences did you have with that kind of deflation of the balloon of the mind? What was that like, or what is it like?
Well, it's when I'm able to be with them and or even on my own, when I'm able to practice for feeling my inner body, uh, for I don't like to bring time into it, but for lack of a better word, for not just a glimpse, but there's and to resist the resistance, so to speak, to not allow the resistance to take over. Then the feeling it's a kind of peace that is it's not even an experience. It's you feel at home, you feel whole, you don't feel a need. It's not about happy or unhappy. It's not. There's no duality. That's the real non-duality. There's no good or bad in it. There's nothing you can describe or bring from the past in it. Yes, the thoughts may come in, but there is enough awareness, there's enough presence of being there to recognize what those thoughts are and not to be swayed by them. There's nothing wrong with thinking as long as you're still home. But if you allow the thoughts to take over and take you away to a point where you're no longer experiencing, where you're no longer coming from that place, and you're just run by your thoughts, that's a different story. And that happens, especially in the beginning, that happens, and even if it happens later, it doesn't matter. Because once you had that, even the glimpse of awakening, and you recognize it, as I said before, when you're able to have Gabor bring you to the point where being recognizes being, when you know that that is your home, then you know that it's never really lost. You know, the problem with so many seekers, we've been addicted to seeking. There's always, oh, it's lost. Where is that experience again? Oh, I used to have that bliss. Once upon a time there was this experience or that experience. I want that again. Those are fleeting experiences, mental experiences or psychic experiences. But when you have that inner awakening, you know that it's home. And even if the mind takes over temporarily, you still know where home is, and you know that you can get back there. And you know how to get back there. And you know that you're the one who's going to get you back there, not somebody else. Somebody may have shown you and may have kept you there for a while, but you know that it's yours. You know that it's up to you to get yourself back there. It's no longer hearsay. It's not something that you have to read in a book. It has nothing to do with somebody else's PhD or MSG or Kundalini or anything. It's your own birthright.
Hmm. Yeah, that kind of getting lost in the mind and the mental activity and then recovering the home ground, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
is interesting. Is it a big deal, I wonder? I mean, 'cause
In the beginning, it is, because when you're not accustomed to coming back, and also, I'm sure Israel, when he explained to you about Jacobson, a lot of stuff comes up in the beginning. We've learned, I should say, speak for myself, I've learned to suppress a lot. And a lot of our other teachings, they told us to smile even if you're not happy. Show the world that you're the Son of God, and the Son of God smiles. And we're taught to suppress things, and to be spiritual, you don't show that you're in pain. You don't show that there are jealousies. You don't show your flaws. The ego has a way of putting a facade of humility. That's how clever it is. And so you suppress everything. But when you come face to face with the real, when you're really present, those things come up. You don't have to look for them. It's not a problem. But until you get familiar and comfortable going back home on a regular basis, and knowing that is your home and feeling comfortable there, when those emotions come up and past experiences come up, they can be painful. Eckhart Tolle talks about it as the pain body. Jacobson talks about it. A lot of teachers talk about it. And you have to face them. But what Gabor taught me is how to deal with them. And how to deal with them is not by ignoring them, not saying they shouldn't be there. There's nothing right or wrong about them, but just to be with them. He basically explains how to embody them, just like I am. When I'm talking to you, I'm feeling my body, I'm in my body, I'm embodying this conversation, I'm embodying this present moment with you. In the same way, if an emotion comes up that's horrific from a past or an egoic tendency that comes up, the practice is to be with it and to allow it to be there. And the more we do that, the easier it is to have those emotions pass. And it's not easy.
Mm.
You know, he's helped me tremendously. I've had a lot of blocks from the past. Like I said, it's not helpful. It's not a preparation to have other teachers. It creates blocks. Our mind creates all these building blocks that it learns from other teachings, from other knowledge that it's accumulated, and it throws it at you every time. It doesn't want to be still. It's like a child.
Yeah. Yeah. So, let me talk about your book again. I mean, you're talking about the contents of it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like writing it? I mean, how was the writing process? I mean, what did you love about it? What did you hate about it?
I love the discoveries that I kept having with it, and also Gabor and I every morning when we have coffee, ideas come up, and he writes stuff, I write stuff, and things come up, and we have so many discoveries, and it helped me see how much I've learned. The difficulty was in writing about the past. Um, you know, I feel that at a time like this, where there's so much false information out there, it's important to expose it. It's like I say in my book, it's time to declare that the king has no clothes. A lot of teachers are parading in certain ways, and some of them don't know that they're doing that. It's not a blame thing, but students need to know that it's not about the fancy schmancy spiritual hooplas, and it's not about charismatic teachers or teachers that talk about um, God knows what. It's about the inner silence, and it's a challenge to come to realize that the power is in subtlety, not in he has a lot of shakti and he can do this for you and he can do that for you. It's in the inner subtlety. And it takes a shift, a major shift, to recognize that. So I feel that it's very important to expose some of those things so that people know. I spent a lot of time and a lot of money on false teachings. And if I can help somebody avoid that, great. But it wasn't easy writing about it, because some of those teachers I love dearly, and most of my friends for many years, some of them are still around, those teachers or those teachings, and I've had to come to terms that our friendships are no longer on the same footing.
Yeah. I wonder if a really good con man, a guru con man, then can see that people are becoming wiser and they're seeking out, the simple gurus, the real gurus,
Mm-hmm.
and if they can start imitating those guys, then we're all screwed. Once they
Of
start
course.
imitating the Gabors and the Robert Wolfs and the Leonard Jacobsons,
Hmm. Oh, I'm sure they will. The mind is so cunning.
then, but maybe that'll be good. Who knows? Maybe a good fake. I shouldn't say that. It makes it hard for con men like me, who are trying to, con some people into a few bucks out of them.
There's good money in it. I tell you that.
Oh, you're making good money? Oh, that's good.
No, no, I'm not saying us. I said there's good money in being a guru today. My ex-husband made a lot of money. My former teachers made a lot of money.
Probably.
Uh, yeah,
Probably. I mean, yeah, I mean, I see it. People are doing Skype sessions for $150 an hour or whatever. So,
if it helps and if it turns someone inside, there's nothing wrong with it. But unfortunately, just like the mind learns all these tricks, so do the gurus. And
yeah,
some of the gurus are just conglomerated minds that are a little bit smarter than other minds that haven't caught up yet.
that's a good
So
point.
they have the advantage. One of my
Yeah, no, and
sorry.
you make another good point that just because you're spending $100, $200 an hour on a Skype call doesn't mean that the person you're talking to, there's anything wrong with them. I mean,
Right.
be an authentic teacher, yeah. So it's not, things aren't black or white here.
No. The point is if your mind slows down and you become still and you have that inner silence within you, then you know that you're on the right track. But if you're just dazzled by someone because they say fancy words or because they can paint or they become because they're creative or because they can awaken a kundalini, it's if it's an outer impression that dazzles you, it's not good enough. Just because they have a diploma or some spiritual degree or PhD or whatever, it's not good enough unless they can turn you inside. It's a wonder to both Gabor and I why so few people ever talk about going within. It's in the Bible. The kingdom of God is within, and nobody talks about it. We're so accustomed to looking outside everywhere, and it's like, hello, it's simple. You already have it. You know,
It's almost like a game, it's like you come into this world, you're given a bunch of distractions,
yeah,
and the game is to try to figure out, what the kind of like the, what's the ground of all those distractions. It's like if you go to a fair, especially like a cheap fair in a city, a cheap, it's something, a local thing, like in a local shopping center. We have them here in Nova Scotia, and they're fun to go to. And you walk down the Midway, and people are yelling at you, want to play this, you want to play that, you want to gel a
exactly.
couple, and so that's fine. You can ignore it. It's not a big, or you can enjoy some of it, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
But that's what happens in life, and people take those shoutings from the
that's
veterans
right.
of the Midway very seriously.
That's right.
And you don't see what the ground is. The ground is an empty parking lot with just some, you know,
Beautiful analogy.
lights put onto it.
Beautiful. That's exactly right. That's what happens in the spiritual realm.
And
You
you
know,
could enjoy some of the attractions on the Midway, but just be aware of
yeah.
the permanent ground.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not too many people are aware of the permanent ground, especially in the beginning. Until you know the permanent ground, you just go round and round on the Ferris wheels and never land.
No, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So,
always a pleasure for me to speak about something that's so meaningful in my life.
Nurit Oren, thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
me on Non-Duality Talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to say hi to Gabor. He's there. I can just say hi.
Yes. Hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go. Hi, Jerry.
We were talking about you, obviously.
Yes.
I really enjoyed talking to Nurit and the way she described, your work, which is just the work, of, the teacher, the guru, or whatever. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah. I I don't even like the word guru or teacher because the whole teaching is such a simplicity that the word guru or what it implies doesn't do justice to it, you know. So,
Yeah, it has a lot of connotations of
yeah, you know, but whatever, you know.
all the connotations that go with it.
Yeah.
But we use words. So.
Yeah, we have no other choice but to use words, and many of the so-called spiritual words have been overused already and stained. So, but such is life. So,
Yeah. I have a shirt just like that. I might wear, if you wear your shirt, I might wear my shirt like that, and people will think
good.
we belong to a cult.
That's perfect. Perfect. Let's do that.
That's fantastic.
The checkered cult.
Checkered.
The checkered.
All the freedom in the world, but you do have to wear the checkered shirt.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
There's got to be a restriction.
That'll identify us.
Yeah, I can always wear a T-shirt or no shirt or.
That'll be fun.
I'll be fine. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Whatever you wear, I'm going to match, and that'll freak you out.
Freak them out. Yeah.
I'm just going to. Well, have my wardrobe here. Thank you. I really enjoyed meeting both of you for now, and I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Next.
Jerry, thanks very much. It's very nice to see you.
You're welcome. Same here. Bye-bye. Bye, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Nurit.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Be in touch. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.